Welcome back everyone to my vlog interview. Today it's morning here in Bali and I'm so excited to have Adam Tang here. He's the Director of Transformation at Organica Water in Kansas City, Missouri. And today we're gonna do the interview a little bit differently. We're gonna focus on water startup this time. And just a little bit brief about Adam. Adam has a very impressive water career, and he has worked for a number of corporations, including General Electric Corporation, or GE. At that time, he played critical roles, including lead and sold Industrial Optic, a startup that works on repairing pipelines. And I'll give Adam a little bit more to tell you guys about that. So welcome again to the show. Can start about you, Adam, briefly, and what exactly Industrial Optic is about.
Sure. So thanks for having me on the show. I'm thrilled to be here. It's fun to connect with other water sort of entrepreneurs or leaders, innovators. And as we've spoken about, I'm extremely passionate about the industry. And one of my biggest passions inside of the water industry is around communicating the value of water, talking about innovation, connecting people who I think are impressive. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I hope I can play at least a small role in helping you with your mission on this video interview. So as you mentioned, I've had my career has spanned a couple of different companies and actually a couple of countries, all focused on water to some degree. But this one we'll specifically talk about is the robotics startup that I ran, which was a spin out of the General Electric Corporation. And we can get into how it came about and why it happened and what's happened since that company was acquired. But I'm excited to talk about the state of innovation and startups in water, because I think it's a pretty neat topic, and there's only a handful of entrepreneurs that are really focused on it.
Definitely, and that's why I'm so excited to have you here, Adam. Water is such a niche sector, particularly water innovation. Not many people are working on it. So I'm very thankful to have you here on the show. So when I think about Industrial Optic, I think about robotics, sci-fi. So perhaps could you share a little bit, what specific problem did an Industrial Optic solve, and what market gap was Industrial Optic addressing?
I think this is the critical story to tell when you have a startup is what was the inspiration behind it. And I think you end up finding a lot out about the startup and the culture and the founder when you figure out why they decided to launch a company, because it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Right. And a lot of founders will tell you, they're entrepreneurs are the only people that will work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours for somebody else. Exactly. So it's a unique thing to get into for sure. But what happened with me was that as part of my work at GE, I was doing a lot of diligence on water startups to look for investment on behalf of the company. And I was coming across software startups. So I came across hardware startups, people focused on all sorts of big data management and artificial intelligence, machine learning, the list goes on, and all the buzzwords that I'm sure that you hear.
Right.
But the one thing that kept sort of piquing my interest was this idea that, at least in the US, the state of water infrastructure is in horrible shape.
Right.
Absolutely horrible shape. It's in catastrophic decline. The water utilities don't have enough money to be able to rehabilitate or replace all of the pipelines that are underground. And there are only a handful of startups that are focused on this particular area of water. Right. And the reason I thought it was so important was because the amount to fix, the total dollar cost to fix and replace these pipes is extremely high. So anything we could do to minimize the amount spent would be very beneficial for water utilities and the water sector as a whole. So really, the inspiration behind Industrial Optic and the robotics was from a conversation I had with a leader in one of the largest privately owned water utilities at the time. And he said, literally verbatim said, I don't need another piece of software. What I need is something that can go inside my pipes and fix them from the inside
Wow.
without the need to dig up streets.
Wow. So the
And so I said, oh, that's interesting, right? Like
okay.
that sounds like a good idea. I think I might, I didn't at the time have the resources to be able to do something about that, but I said, okay, I'll keep it in the back of my mind and
I
maybe
see.
something will happen.
I see. So you saw a problem and an area that no one was working on it, and you took the initiative to kind of crack that. So maybe for me and my the audience that are listening, how does it work, the industrial optic? Is it like you put like a robot, like robots inside the pipeline, and it goes everywhere and then repair the pipeline itself? How does it actually work?
Yeah, so it was we designed the robot to function in such a way that it could be deployed through existing openings in the water system.
Hmm.
And there are a handful of them, but the primary one is going to be a fire hydrant.
Oh,
And the
okay.
reason we focused on existing openings was because the real cost in replacing or repairing pipe is not in the pipe itself.
I
It's
see.
actually in the construction
Mhm.
costs related to digging. So it's permitting, it's the labor, it's the heavy machinery, it's the shutting
Mhm.
down roads. So if you can fix a pipe without digging up the street, the cost to fix that pipe goes down substantially. So
Right.
we developed a robot that could be
Mhm.
inserted through fire hydrants, and
Mhm.
it was actually operated sort of like a remote control car from
Oh,
the
okay.
surface, and you could direct it in the pipes.
I
It would
see.
then detect where a leak was, and then actually it carried a repair mechanism with the robot, so it could be deployed from inside the pipe, and it would seal off those leaks or imperfections.
I see. Oh, wow. So if I think about some of the movies that I saw before, maybe that it's how it's actually look like in reality. Go inside and then repair the pipe. Oh, that's so
Yes.
cool, Adam. That's such a really innovative idea that you worked on before. So I would like to dig down a little bit more on, so from having like an idea, which is really niche like this, working on repairing the pipelines, how did you turn it into a market-driven product? And how did you eventually get Industrial Optic acquired within only 2 years? Would love to hear your journey a little bit, because the people who are listening to here probably are water startups founders and executives, and I want them to kind of learn the journey, what you went through.
Sure. There's a lot to unpack there because there's hiring a team, there's
Mhm.
product development, there's financing of the business,
Mhm.
there's customer development. So we can go on for forever if we wanted to talk about it. But what I'll talk about specifically is around your question around the market-driven product.
Mhm. Mhm.
And one of the key tenets for as we were building the robot, actually before we even started building the hardware and the
Mhm.
robotics, was to talk to as many water utilities as we
Oh,
possibly could and essentially have them define what they would want in a
nice.
system if it existed. So I think a
Okay.
lot of entrepreneurs fall into the trap of, if you build it,
Mhm.
everyone will love it and it's going to be this incredible product that everyone's going to pay a lot of money for.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's just not the case.
Mhm.
So you can avoid a lot of heartache and a lot of wasted time and money
I see.
if you have your customers tell you what they want. And in some cases, they'll even be willing to fund it
Oh, wow.
if you can prove that either you can do it or you have a prototype, right? Something like that. So what we had was water utilities, our local ones in particular, and a couple of larger national ones.
Mhm.
But they would come and visit our office on a fairly regular basis, and
Okay.
we would give them updates as to what the product was going to look like, and then as we were building it, what it looked like in every stage. And we
Right.
asked them, would this work for you? If it doesn't work, why? What would you like to see? What would be different? Right?
Mhm.
What are the requirements that this product has to work within? And so we literally had our end users, the people that would be buying the product from us, telling us exactly what they would want
Right.
if it was in existence. And I think that was a huge factor for our success
Mhm.
in the marketplace. And ultimately, what led us to being acquired was because we were able to develop a robotic system and a repair system that was years ahead of anything else anyone had done before.
Right.
And so when the acquirer saw it, they said, look, this is going to significantly accelerate our product timeline, our roadmap, right? Like this is the vision that we had 5 to 10 years out, and you're bringing it to us now. So that's, ultimately that was the reason that the company was purchased.
Right. I like that you touch on the market driven or particularly user experience, right? Because from my experience as well, it's all about getting the people who are using it to really be the drive for the product development. And you really hit the nail on the head on that. And secondly, as we know, even like in the US or Southeast Asia, financing is always be a problem. So by involving these utilities, like what you said, I had the same experience as well, involving a lot of utilities here in Indonesia. They will become more interested and willing to fund the project or product itself. So that's something that I really take away from your insight that you just shared. Really spot on, Adam.
And we're lucky now that we have an environment. It's not, certainly not the most leading environment for innovation in water, but it's certainly coming along with a lot of incubators, a lot of accelerators,
right.
Utilities, funding programs for innovation, or putting out requests for proposals for certain types of technologies. We're very fortunate that the industry is starting to come around. And so
right.
I think now is actually probably better than most times, a really good time to be an entrepreneur, because as water supplies decrease and water quality, people obviously continue to be concerned about water quality. It means
right.
probably the price of water will be driven up, which means hopefully more investment in the sector, more willingness to adopt new technologies or innovation. I think we're seeing a younger generation of workers come into the water sector as well, which is also helpful, right? People willing to try new technology, test new things. They listen to vlogs, they listen to podcasts, they use, all sorts of handheld devices, robotics, computers, right? They're very willing and open to try those things. So I think now is, right, we're sort of at this inflection point. At least I hope we are. And it's only going to continue to go up.
Exactly. And I'm glad you say that it's almost the best time for entrepreneurs to work on water. I like that a lot. And thank you so much for sharing all the insights that you have. Last thing that I want to kind of give the floor to you, Adam, here, because when we connected, you said you're passionate about bringing more people into the sector, right? So maybe perhaps you have any last words that you want to share with the people that are watching here.
Just know that water is something you probably don't think about very often, but it's something that is critical for the lives of everyone on this planet. And I have not yet found a more fulfilling industry or set of problems to focus on outside of water. And I would challenge anyone to debate me in any public setting. If you could find another industry that is as crucial and critical to life as we know it on the planet as water is, then I'd love to have that debate. But if you just consider the opportunities in water, start digging, start looking, you're going to find there's a big world out there, and it's incredibly fulfilling and incredibly satisfying to work in.
Right. Well said. Excellent, Adam. Thank you so much. So it has been a short time with you this morning, but I learned so much, and hopefully other startups, other founders for water startups learn a lot the same as me. So thank you so much again, Adam, for spending the time with me today. And there's a lot of more things that we have to do in the water sector, particularly for the innovation side. So thank you again for being here with me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much.